On the morning of April 8, 1940, in the freezing waters of the Norwegian Sea, a 345-ton British destroyer was making what every rational naval officer would have classified as a suicide run. HMS Glowworm, a G-class destroyer built in 1935, had already taken 2 torpedoes worth of punishment from a pair of German destroyers. Her bow was crumpled, her forward guns were out, she was shipping water, and she had lost the ability to maintain the 36 knots she had made on her sea trials. Her captain, Lieutenant Commander Gerard Roope, had one working weapon left, the ship herself. He pointed 345 tons of British steel at the 14,000-ton German heavy cruiser Admiral Hipper and shoved his throttle to the stops. German naval doctrine said this was impossible. It was impossible. It happened anyway. The German assessment of convoy vulnerability in the North Atlantic rested on precise arithmetic. Submarine commanders submitted projections based on wolfpack coordination, convoy scatter probability, and the response time of escort vessels. Admiral Karl Donitz's staff estimated that a coordinated attack on a defended convoy could realistically sink between 50 and 70% of merchant hulls in an engagement lasting under 4 hours, provided escort destroyers were neutralized first. This was not optimism. It was engineering. A G-class destroyer like Glowworm displaced 1,345 tons fully loaded and carried 4 4.7-inch guns, a pair of quadruple torpedo tubes, and a complement of 145 men. Against the Admiral Hipper's 8 8-inch guns, 10,000-ton displacement, and belt armor ranging up to 70 mm, the arithmetic was embarrassingly straightforward. The Hipper's 8-inch shells could penetrate any part of the Glowworm's structure at ranges exceeding 15,000 yards. The Glowworm's 4.7-inch shells could not meaningfully damage Hipper's belt armor at any range. On paper, Roope had no move. The German tactical manual agreed. What German planning consistently underweighted was the calculus of the individual captain in extremis. Roope had been separated from the main British force, the destroyer screened for HMS renown, while searching for a man overboard on April 7th. When he stumbled into 2 German destroyers early on April 8th, he fought them, damaging Z-18 Hans Ludemann sufficiently to force her off the engagement. Then the Hipper appeared out of the sleet. Roope attempted to break contact under a smokescreen, a tactically sound decision. The Hipper's superior speed, 32 knots to the Glowworm's then achievable 28, made escape impossible. The German commander, Captain Helmuth High, moved to finish the engagement from a safe distance, exactly as Doctrine prescribed. This was where the arithmetic broke down. Roope was not consulting Doctrine. He was looking at the transports his ship had been tasked to protect and making a different kind of calculation entirely. The secret was in the geometry of what a ramming maneuver actually accomplishes against a large warship. Critics of Roope's decision, and there were many in subsequent naval analysis, focused on the obvious disparity in tonnage. A 145-ton destroyer striking a 14,000-ton cruiser seemed mathematically negligible. What those critics missed was that the Hipper's vulnerability was not distributed evenly across 14,000 tons. Her propeller shafts, rudder mechanisms, and below-waterline hull plating on her starboard bow represented concentrated, specific points of catastrophic failure. Roope aimed for the starboard side, forward. The collision, at approximately 9:13 hours on April 8th, tore a 40-meter gash in the Hipper's hull. The Glowworm crumpled and sank in minutes, taking Roope and 108 of his crew. But the Hipper took on 500 tons of seawater. She needed to return to Trondheim for repairs that took 3 weeks. She did not participate in the subsequent operations she had been assigned. Those 3 weeks matter enormously. The Hipper had been tasked as a covering force for German destroyers landing troops at Trondheim as part of Operation Weserübung, Hitler's invasion of Norway. Her planned second operational phase included convoy interdiction in the Norwegian Sea. The British were simultaneously running supply operations to Norwegian forces and evacuating personnel from multiple ports. German naval planning had allocated the Hipper as a hunter-killer asset for exactly this period. With her sidelined in drydock at Trondheim through late April, the operational pressure on British convoy escorts dropped materially. British convoy losses in the Norwegian campaign, while significant, did not approach the 50-plus ship projections Donitz's staff had modeled for scenarios with full German surface radar support. The difference between projections and reality runs through that 40-meter gash in the Hipper's bow. Roope's decision was not recklessness. This is the distinction that subsequent analysis has consistently failed to make cleanly. Recklessness is ignorance of consequences. Roope understood the consequences precisely. His signal to renown before the ramming reported his situation, identified the Hipper by class and approximate position, and gave his intentions. It was the signal of a man who had done the math and reached a conclusion his superiors had not authorized because they had not imagined the situation. British naval culture in 1940, frequently criticized for excessive conservatism, had nonetheless produced captains trained to understand their escort mission in terminal terms. The convoy survives, or the escort has failed. Roope understood Hipper, operational in the Norwegian Sea, as a threat to convoys he could not personally protect. He had one weapon. He used it. The German response tells its own story. Captain High ordered the Hipper to rescue survivors. 31 men were pulled from the water, Roope himself dying during the rescue attempt. High subsequently submitted a report recommending Roope for recognition, which was forwarded through Swiss diplomatic channels to the British Admiralty. The Victoria Cross was awarded posthumously in July 1945, after German naval records confirming the recommendation became available. That High, the man whose ship Roope had just rammed, felt compelled to recommend his enemy for his nation's highest honor is not a sentimental footnote. It is professional testimony from the most credible possible witness that what Roope did was not suicidal futility. It was devastating effectiveness achieved through complete disregard for conventional survivability calculations. Standard British escort doctrine in 1940 emphasized positional defense. Destroyers maintained screening stations around convoys, prosecuted submarine contacts with depth charges, and were explicitly discouraged from independent offensive action against surface forces they could not realistically damage. The tactical manual was not wrong. In most circumstances, it was exactly correct. What it could not account for was the scenario where a captain had already lost the conventional tools of positional defense, had identified a specific high-value target whose removal would benefit convoys he could no longer protect by surviving, and had a remaining weapon, momentum, mass, and nerve, that the manual had not thought to list. Roope did not violate doctrine out of ignorance. He exceeded it because the situation had moved beyond its scope. The deeper lesson runs counter to how naval engagements are typically modeled. German planning rested on the assumption that escort value was a function of ordnance and survivability. A destroyer with guns that could not penetrate a cruiser's belt armor, in that model, had zero offensive value against that cruiser. The model was technically correct and operationally wrong. HMS Glowworm's offensive value against Admiral Hipper was not zero. It was 500 tons of seawater and 3 weeks of dry dock. It was the Hipper's absence from convoy interdiction during the most contested period of the Norwegian campaign. It was, in aggregate, a contribution to convoy survival that could not have been modeled from the armament table of a G-class destroyer. There is a final detail that rarely appears in the summary accounts. When the Glowworm survivors were brought aboard Hipper, German sailors gave them dry clothing and hot food. One survivor, able seaman Robert Gould, later recalled that the German crew seemed genuinely stunned, not by the audacity of the ramming, which they had seen coming and could not entirely evade, but by the fact that a ship so obviously outmatched had not attempted to surrender or scuttle. The concept that had no place in German tactical planning was the one Roope had used to sink 500 tons of water into their hull. The idea that a ship with no viable path to survival still had a viable path to mission accomplishment. Battlefields are not testing ranges. Doctrine is not destiny. And sometimes the most tactically sophisticated move available to a 1,345-ton destroyer is to become a very fast, very determined projectile aimed at the one thing the enemy needs to keep afloat.